Okay, so I want you to picture a scenario. And I think it's a specific kind of torture that, well, that every single person listening has probably experienced, maybe in the last 48 hours.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
You're in a meeting, or maybe you're just standing at a colleague's desk. The business is done, the agenda's exhausted, you know it's over, they know it's over. But um, nobody moves.
The lingering silence, the purgatory of the goodbye.
Exactly. It's that excruciating 5-second window where everyone is just looking at each other, shuffling papers, making, awkward eye contact, and just waiting for someone else to be the brave one.
And it usually ends with someone just backing out of the room muttering.
Okay.
Ah.
And then they hit the door frame on the way out. It is painful.
It is. And, looking at the research we have for today's deep dive, it is a surprisingly common blind spot for professionals. We spend so much energy prepping for the start.
Right. The handshake, the opening line.
The agenda items, all of it. But we treat the exit like a total afterthought.
Which is wild when you think about it. It's like sticking the landing in gymnastics. You can do all the flips perfectly, but if you fall on your face at the end, that's all anyone remembers.
That is the perfect analogy. And that's really the core argument we're unpacking today. We've got a great set of materials that focuses entirely on this, on the art of the exit.
Okay.
We've pulled together insights on, business communication, psychology, linguistic framing, all to figure out one thing. How do you escape a conversation smoothly, politely, and effectively?
And crucially, without sounding like a jerk who's just bored and wants to leave.
Right. The goal today is to give you the specific English phrases and the structures, the actual scripts, to escape that awkward silence. Because if you stumble at the finish line, people notice.
Okay, so let's start there. Is it really that big of a deal? I mean, if I'm a little awkward when I leave a meeting, does that actually impact my career, or is it just a bit cringeworthy for me?
The data suggests it's actually a professional liability. There is a psychological concept at play here that the sources highlight pretty heavily. It's called the recency effect.
Okay, let's unpack that. I've heard of this in, like, marketing. But how does it apply to me just talking to my boss?
Well, in the context of interpersonal communication, it basically means that the human brain doesn't record interactions like a continuous video. It takes snapshots.
Okay.
And we tend to remember the beginning of an interaction and the very end with like high definition, the middle. The middle gets kind of blurry.
That makes the stakes feel a lot higher. So you're telling me I could be brilliant for 20 minutes in the middle of a strategy session, but if I end it by just staring at my shoes and mumbling, I guess that's it. That's what sticks.
Precisely. You've essentially just diluted the impact of all that brilliance. You undercut your own authority right at the buzzer. The source material emphasizes that a bad ending usually falls into one of two traps.
Okay.
It's either too abrupt, which reads as cold or angry or dismissive, or
The dragger.
the dragger, the exit that just won't die.
Oh, I am definitely guilty of this one. You know, where you stand in the doorway, hand on the handle, and suddenly you start a whole new topic just because the silence feels so heavy.
We all do it. It's like a nervous tick.
Yeah.
But it signals inefficiencies. So the whole mission here is finding that balance.
Right.
We're looking for the middle ground between the Irish goodbye where you just vanish and the long goodbye that wastes everyone's time. We want the last memory of you to be positive, competent, and respectful.
Respectful is an interesting word there. I think that's where the anxiety comes from. We don't want to offend people.
Exactly.
So let's get practical, because I think the hardest place to do this is that casual one-on-one scenario. You're at a coworker's desk, you've been chatting, maybe you drifted into weekend plans, and now you need to escape.
This is the classic dilemma. You're trapped by your own politeness.
Right. How do I leave without just saying, you are boring me, or I have more important things to do?
The sources suggest a specific pivot phrase that I think is just brilliant. It's essentially verbal judo. It's simple, but the psychology behind it is so clever.
Okay, lay it on me.
The phrase is, all right, I'll let you get back to
I'll
it.
let you get back to it. Okay, wait, I love that. Because it flips the script, doesn't it?
Exactly. I mean, think about the framing. If you say, I need to go do work, or I'm really busy, you're making the exit about your needs.
You're prioritizing yourself.
Yeah, and worst case, it implies that they're keeping you from being productive. It basically signals you are wasting my time.
I see that.
But when you flip it and say, I'll let you get back to it, you're framing your exit as a favor to them. You're the benevolent colleague who respects their busy schedule.
That is slick. Even if they aren't busy, even if they're the ones procrastinating.
Especially then.
Yeah.
It gives them a graceful out, too. It reestablishes that professional boundary without anyone losing face. It says, we are both important people with things to do.
It's assertive, but it's wrapped in kindness. But let me play devil's advocate here. What if, I'll let you get back to it, feels a bit too transactional? Maybe it's a work friend you actually like and you don't want to sound like a robot.
That's a great point. Then you need to validate the relationship. You need a closer that says, I'm leaving the conversation, not the friendship.
Okay, so what's that line?
The recommendation here is something like, sounds good, let's reconnect later.
Let's reconnect later.
The key word there is later. It implies the conversation isn't dead, it's just paused. It keeps that door open. You're not shutting them down, you're just hitting the pause button.
It removes the rejection sting.
It does.
Yeah.
And if you want something just simple, warm, standard, you can't go wrong with great chatting with you.
Great chatting with you. It seems so obvious, but how often do we actually say it?
So rarely. We usually just say, okay, see ya, great chatting with you. Puts a bow on the whole interaction. It labels it as positive right before you walk away.
So that handles the water cooler. But I want to move to the big leagues, formal meetings. This is where I feel like the awkwardness just scales up because now you have an audience, the stakes are higher.
And the dynamics are totally different. In a casual chat, you can kind of go by feel, you can read the room. In a formal meeting, relying on vibes is just dangerous. You need a formula.
A formula.
Yes. The source material outlines what they call the meeting trifecta for the perfect exit. It's a 3-part structure to ensure you never have that awkward, so is it over moment.
A trifecta, I like the sound of that. What are the 3 parts?
Summary, next steps, and appreciation.
Okay, lay it on us. Walk us through step 1, summary.
So the summary isn't about, rereading the minutes or boring everyone. It's a signal. You are signaling to the room that the generating ideas phase is done and the synthesis phase has begun. You're closing the input valve.
So it's like, okay, so we've discussed X, Y, and Z, brief, punchy.
Exactly. Then you move immediately to step 2, next steps. This is the most crucial part. The source calls this the so what of the meeting.
I've been in so many meetings where this is missing. You walk out and everyone's whispering, wait, who's doing the thing?
If you end without next steps, you've honestly failed as a facilitator. People leave feeling anxious because the loop isn't closed. You need to assign ownership. Sarah's doing the deck, Mike is checking the budget.
And step 3, appreciation.
Thanking the room, but not just a generic thanks, thanking them for something specific, their time, their input, their candor.
Okay, so let's put this into practice. If I'm running a project meeting, instead of just looking at the clock and saying, oh, time's up, bye, I should say.
Yeah.
Give me the script.
You might say something like, all right, just to recap, we're agreed on the new design direction. Sarah, you'll have the draft by Friday, and I'll handle the client. Thanks, everyone, for the great ideas today.
That sounds really authoritative.
It does, doesn't it? It signals you're in charge, you are listening, and you have a plan. It closes the cognitive loop for everyone in the room.
It feels like you're wrapping the meeting in a little package and handing it to them.
That's a great way to put it. And now compare that to the anti-example the source mentions. The dreaded, okay, anything else? No? Okay, bye.
Ugh, I've physically cringed hearing that.
The okay, bye is the death of executive presence. It sounds like you just ran out of battery power. It creates this vacuum of leadership. The trifecta summary, next steps, appreciation, fills that vacuum with value.
Now, there is a tricky transition moment here, right? We talked about the actual goodbye. But what about the transition to the end? Sometimes you're in a meeting and it feels like a plane just circling the airport.
Right.
People keep adding one more thing. You can't just drop the landing gear and slam onto the runway.
No, if you cut people off too sharply, you look aggressive. You need to signal that the descent has begun. We call this the soft landing technique.
I love the aviation metaphor. So how do we pilot this thing down gently?
You need phrases that prime the room to stop generating new ideas. A classic one is just, I think that covers everything.
Short, sweet, but firm.
Or, and I really love this one for its subtlety, if there's nothing else, we can wrap up here.
If there's nothing else,
Yeah.
that's polite because it technically offers a chance to speak, but the tone usually implies, please God, let there be nothing else.
Exactly. It invites closure rather than forcing it. It makes the group feel like they decided to end it. Another great one, especially if you're watching the clock, is just, we're right on time.
That's a subtle flex, too. It shows you're managing the schedule. You're a pro.
But, and this is a huge but, in the source material, the words are only 50% of the equation.
What's the other 50%?
Tone. You cannot deliver these lines with a flat, robotic voice. If I say, I think that covers everything in a monotone, I sound bored or just annoyed.
Or passive-aggressive, like, I am so done with you people.
Exactly. The specific advice here is surprisingly physical. Smile when you speak.
Even on a conference call. If I'm on Zoom with my camera off or just on the phone.
Yes, even on audio only. The research shows listeners can actually hear a smile. When you smile, it physically changes the shape of your mouth, it lifts the soft palate, and it affects the pitch and resonance of your voice. It just adds warmth.
So the formula is confidence plus warmth.
If you have the words but not the warmth, you sound dismissive. If you have the warmth but not the words, you sound unsure. You need both. It's the difference between slamming the door in someone's face and, walking them to the door and shaking their hand.
I love that visualization. Okay, I'm going to throw a curveball at you. Everything we've discussed assumes the meeting went well. Everyone's happy, we're all friends, the project's on track.
Yeah.
But what if the meeting was a disaster?
Ah, the high-stakes exit, the tense room.
Yeah, we disagreed, maybe we argued over budget or strategy. The vibe is just bad. How do you end that meeting without it feeling like you're either storming out or you're surrendering?
This is where true professional maturity is tested. Most people either want to win the argument at the buzzer, get that last word in, or they just want to flee. The goal here is neither. The goal is to agree to pause.
Agree to pause. So you're not giving up, but you're stopping the bleeding.
Exactly. You need a phrase that acknowledges the conflict but wraps it in respect. You don't pretend everything is fine, but you don't pour gas on the fire. A great phrase for this is, I appreciate the discussion. Let's revisit this after we gather more data.
Ooh, let's revisit this after we gather more data. That is smart. It diffuses the emotion by shifting the focus to facts.
It says, we aren't fighting, we're just solving a problem and we need more tools to do it. It depersonalizes the whole thing.
And what if it's more about a difference of opinion, not just data?
Then you could try. We may see this differently right now, but I'm glad we talked it through. Let's pick this up on Tuesday.
I'm glad we talked it through. That's very disarming. It validates the other person's perspective without actually agreeing with it.
And that's the key. You show you can handle conflict without letting the meeting end on a sour note. You preserve the relationship. Because in business, there is always a next meeting.
Always.
Yep.
They can't burn the bridge just because you didn't like the toll.
Right. And speaking of bridges in modern communication, we have to talk about the digital workspace. Slack, Microsoft Teams, all of it. The source mentions a cardinal rule here. Don't ghost.
This is a modern epidemic.
Yeah.
Someone sends you a file or answers a question and you don't reply. You think, okay, I read it, I'm good. But they don't know that.
It creates anxiety. It leaves this open loop in the sender's brain. Did they get it? Are they mad? Is the file wrong?
It's the digital equivalent of someone handing you a coffee and you just staring at them blankly and walking away.
Yes. You have to close the loop. But you don't need to write a Shakespearean sonnet about it. The source says, keep it low friction.
So what counts as a closed loop?
A simple thanks, got it, talk soon, and the sources are very clear on this. A thumbs up emoji is perfectly valid professional communication now.
The thumbs up is officially sanctioned. I feel like some people still think it's lazy.
It's not lazy. It's efficient. It confirms receipt. It says, I heard you and we are good. It ends the digital thread so the other person can mentally archive that task. It's a kindness.
It is amazing how much anxiety a simple pixelated thumb can prevent. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. The psychology of recency, the I'll let you get back to it pivot, the meeting trifecta.
The soft landing, the conflict exit, it's a full toolkit.
It is. But I know there are listeners thinking, this is great, but in the moment when I'm tired or I'm stressed or I'm just trying to get off a call, I'm going to forget all these fancy phrases.
That is a very real concern. Cognitive load is real. When you're finishing a big presentation, your brain is fried, your adrenaline is crashing. You don't want to be searching for the right words.
So what's the safety net? What happens when my mind just goes blank?
The source calls it the default weapon, or maybe more gently, the default closing line.
Which is?
Preparation. You memorize one generic, all-purpose closing line. You drill it until it's just automatic. So when your brain freezes, this line just falls out of your mouth on autopilot.
Give us the gold standard example, the in case of emergency, break glass line.
All right, I think that's everything from my side.
That's it.
That's it. All right, I think that's everything from my side. It works in a meeting, on a phone call. It works in almost any context.
It signals you're done, and it just passes the baton back to the room.
Exactly. It stops the close. Yeah, dead in its tracks. It puts a period at the end of the sentence.
I'm going to tattoo that on my arm. I think that's everything from my side.
Just write it on a sticky note for your monitor. That works too.
Fair enough. So, if we look at the big picture here, mastering the exit isn't really about being charming, is it? It's not about being the life of the party.
No, not at all. It's about control. It's about control, respect, and structure. Whether it's using, I'll let you get back to it to respect a colleague's time, or the trifecta to respect a whole room's time, you are curating the experience right to the very last second.
And ensuring that the recency effect works in your favor. They remember you as the person who wrapped things up clearly and warmly, not the person who made things awkward.
Precisely. You want to be the person who sticks the landing.
So here is my challenge to you, the listener. In your very next conversation, whether it's a Zoom call in 10 minutes or dinner with a friend tonight, try one of these techniques. Try the summary next steps appreciation formula. Or just use the default closing line. Just see how it changes the vibe.
And here's a thought I want to leave you with, something to really mull over. We talked about the recency effect, that people judge us largely by how we leave the room, if that is true. Take a hard look at your preparation habits. Are you spending 90% of your prep time polishing your intro and your slides, and then leaving your reputation completely to chance at the exit?
Ooh, that hits home. We plan the entrance, but we improvise the exit.
And the exit is what they keep.
Well, on that note, I think that covers everything from my side.
Nice. And if there's nothing else, we can wrap up here.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Talk soon.
Talk soon.